If you're using a fitness tracker to lose weight, but the numbers constantly leave you feeling either confused or even frustrated, not to worry, you're not alone. These devices, they throw so much information at us, like our calories burned, our steps taken, how many minutes we've been active, how we're sleeping, all kinds of information. But what the hell do those numbers really mean for our results? If you don't understand how your tracker really works, you unfortunately could be setting yourself up for months or even years of false hope, thinking you're making all kinds of progress when your body tells a different story. But here's the good news. Once you know how to actually use your tracker the right way, staying on track becomes easier, less stressful, and way more effective. You'll be able to fit fitness into your life instead of making your entire life about fitness. And no matter what anyone tries to tell you, you don't have to obsess over burning a specific amount of calories or hitting a step goal every single day in order to see results. So let's break it all down so you can finally stop guessing and start making progress that actually lasts. What's up, YouTube, and welcome back to the channel where I give you a common sense health education so you can learn how to get healthy and stay healthy in a simple way that is sustainable for the rest of your life. If you're new here, my name is Coach Achidi, and thanks for joining today on this video. And as I talked about in the intro, we're going to be going over fitness trackers. So let's first start off with the basics on just how many of these devices actually work. I am a personal trainer and food educator. I'm not an engineer, so I'm not going to deep dive into all the tech savvy parts about these devices. I'm really just going to give you a basic overview of what they do and how they really work. So these devices have different sensors on them that pick up what your body is doing and display it on there so you can make sense of it. For instance, they have these optical heart rate sensors. Like when you take the device off, you see these little green lights that are flashing. Those are used to measure your heart rate. There's also some components inside of here that's known as an accelerometer. And whenever I move my wrist around when I'm running or I'm walking or I'm lifting weights, the device moves and it registers that as a steps, or certain devices like the one I'm wearing can register it as actual kinds of exercise. I'm gonna talk a little bit more about that later in the video, so keep watching. These devices are really smart. They also have a GPS in them. So many of the ones that you take out when you go running, hiking, some that are water resistant and you go swimming in, they'll track wherever you are on the planet, and they will use that to give you how far you've gone, show you where you've gone, show you the pace that you did it at. So they're pretty smart with all that. And then lastly, they'll take this information that they get from your heart rate, from how you're moving, where you moved, and other things that it's measuring, and it's going to put it together to estimate, and I say that heavily, estimate your calorie burn. Basically, the way that it estimates your calorie burn is it takes all that stuff that it's measured, and it has some crazy formula in it that it takes all that information and spits out what your estimated calorie burn is. All devices have their own different formulas. That's why when you use a Garmin device like I'm wearing, and you compare it to an Apple Watch, and you compare it to a Fitbit, you're gonna get some slightly differing amounts for the same person wearing them for the same activity. So keep that in mind, because now that you understand a little bit about how these devices work and that they can only tell you so much info, let's talk about the things that they do very well. So these devices, they're fairly powerful and they're rather accurate at certain things. And these things that they are accurate at will actually help you lose weight and get more fit. So the first thing that they're generally very accurate at is step counting. As I said in the first part, they have an accelerometer that picks up your motion and displays it as steps. So if you keep your step count consistent, you're staying consistently active, and the more active you stay, the more weight you'll lose and the more fit you'll be. Pretty simple. They also are very reliable, meaning that they'll measure the information the same way every time and keep track of it so you can look at it and check the trends. They will measure you in the same way, they will keep track of it in the same way so you can make decisions off of what you see. And lastly, they're super great at motivating you to stay active. they make staying active into a bit of a game where you're like, okay, it gave me a target of 10,000 steps yesterday and I exceeded that. So now it tells me I should try to hit 10,500. I can do that. Or to let you know, hey, you're on a 6-day streak of hitting the mark when it comes to your steps. You want to get to 7? Let's get up and move. And they will remind you to stay active, whether getting steps or even to calm down and do some breath work if they're noticing that your stress level's getting high. So when used properly, this kind of information will give the user a good overall picture of how they are doing when it comes to getting active so they can lose weight and stay healthy. So as good as these devices are, unfortunately, they're not the word of God, and they do fall short in certain areas, which can leave people who use them feeling overwhelmed or confused, or ultimately they get frustrated and give up. So doesn't matter which device you're using, they all fall short in these same areas. And the first area that they fall short in is simply the calorie burn estimate. As I talked about earlier, the calorie burn is based off of how it records certain information off of you and it puts it into a set formula, and then it gives you your estimated calorie burn. But here's the thing. Your body is more than just these bits of information that it's recording, and this formula is not able to pick up on those changes. So the formula could be as inaccurate as just 20%, which is still pretty bad, or as inaccurate as 93%. So if it's telling you that you burned 600 calories for your workout, don't take that as the word of God, and don't use that to estimate how much food you should eat. Second thing that they kind of are hit and miss on is your heart rate. When you're sleeping, when you are resting, or you're doing some low intensity stuff, the heart rate information on here is fairly spot on. But once you start getting into more intense cardio, and it's especially because the device is worn here on your wrist, it's not going to estimate how your heart is operating as well. So one way to get around this is certain devices have a chest strap that you wear. That makes it a bit more accurate, but most of us are wearing just a wrist device, so keep in mind that the heart rate it's displaying while you're working out might not be 100% accurate. And another thing that these devices can get kind of wrong, your step counts. As I've been talking, my hands and arms have been moving, and my device is registering these as steps. So working at your desk, driving, doing upper body movements are still going to be registered as steps. And certain times when you are getting steps, you might not be getting credit for them. So again, the device is helpful, but it is not set in stone, 100% accurate word of God. And then the last thing that it can be a bit inaccurate on are the active minutes, or, and this is specific to the Apple Watch, closing your rings. Just because you closed your rings doesn't necessarily mean you had a great workout, or just because you spent more time for getting active movements doesn't mean you got a great workout. I can close my rings or get active minutes by just flailing my body around, and that's great for burning calories, but it's not so great for improving how my heart and lungs work or building muscle. And doing those two things when you work out is the point of working out, not just trying to flail your body and get as much active time or close a ring. So now that you understand how these devices can fall short, you should be able to stay away from any of the traps that entice people into thinking that they're doing great when they're missing the mark. So consider yourself fully informed on how these devices are both good and the areas that they fall short on. So this is what we all came here for, learning how to actually use these devices so we use just the good features and we avoid the bad ones so we can finally lose weight and get more fit. First thing that you want to use this device for is not the exact numbers, but use the device to track the trends. Look for the patterns. Are you getting the same amount of steps as you did last month? Have you increased the step count from last month? Have you done the same amount of activity, or have you slowly increased it? Look for those kinds of trends because these devices are reliable and will measure things the same way each time, so that data will help you adjust your behaviors. And the worst thing you can use this device for is tracking your calories burned. That's an estimate that is highly inaccurate, as low as 20% inaccurate to nearly 93% inaccurate. So rather than using it to track your calories burned, use it to track your steps and your activity. Your step goals and consistency around that will matter a lot more than trying to hit a certain calorie number on here. And using your device in this way will help you stay accountable to staying active, and it's not meant to be used as a weight loss calculator. It's really just trying to keep you accountable to certain trends that lead to getting more active and losing weight. As I said earlier, this device, it gives a good estimate, but not a reliable one for your calorie burn. So that means this is not meant to tell you, hey, you burned 700 calories, so go ahead and eat 700 calories. That is what sets people up to be constantly frustrated that they're burning all this calories, but they eat and they don't lose weight. So don't use it like that. Your body has differing needs than what this device tells you. So that's why sticking to a diet and using self-control are gonna have to happen whether you use this device or not. And even though the device isn't the best at telling you how you worked out when it comes to strength training, like, weights and such, you still need to do those things. So don't judge your workout based off of only burning a couple hundred calories lifting weights. That's not the point of lifting weights. And again, these things aren't that accurate when it comes to calorie burn. So still, hit your strength training 3 to 4 times a week, regardless of how many calories this device tells you you burned. And the last thing you should use this device for is for motivation and not validation. The device is gonna hype you up when you get on a streak. It's gonna remind you to get up and move if you've been sitting for too long. And those are the things that you should use the device for. Then it doesn't mean that you should never try to close your rings or never try to hit a certain step target. That's all good and fine. If that motivates you to move and you can do that without getting all overwhelmed with it, keep doing it. But on a day where you can't quite hit the mark, don't quit, don't beat yourself up. Just remember, each and every day is a new opportunity to give your best, and some days are gonna be better than others. That is it. This is meant to motivate you, not validate you. And so when you use your fitness tracker in these ways, you're gonna finally be able to lose weight and get fit without becoming an overwhelmed slave to this little device. At the end of the day, your fitness tracker is a tool, not a magic weight loss device sent from God. Use it wisely and don't fall into the trap of chasing numbers that really don't mean much. Have you ever felt like your tracker's lying to you? If so, drop a comment below and tell me about your experience. Also, if you found this helpful and if you want to learn more about sustainable fitness, check out my free email newsletter down in the description below. In just a moment, you're going to see a preview for another video from my channel that offers you a simple guide on how to get healthy and stay healthy in a sustainable manner. Give it a watch and I'll see you on the next one.